My name is Marisol Hale, and the day my marriage ended did not look dramatic from the outside. There were no slammed doors, no broken glass, no screaming, just the mail. A stack of envelopes on the kitchen table, where the morning light fell pale and thin through the blinds. I reached for them the way I always did, absent-mindedly, thinking of groceries, laundry, the ordinary rhythm of a shared life. The envelope was plain, white, slightly creased. My name printed on the front. Not our names. Mine alone. That felt wrong before I even opened it. Inside was a bank statement from a financial institution I did not recognize. A balance. A due notice. A number so large I reread it 3 times before my mind understood it. Debt. Debt attached to my name. Debt taken out in my signature. Except I had never seen this account before. I set the paper on the counter and stared at it. There are moments in life when the world does not break. It tilts. Just slightly. Enough that everything familiar begins to slide. My signature was there. The looping M, the steady Hale, the slight upward curve I had used since school. Except the pressure was wrong. The slant too stiff. Someone who knew my handwriting well enough to copy it, had signed for me. There was only one person who could do that. My husband, Adrian. I waited all day for him to come home. The clock moved like something heavy. I cleaned the counter, washed dishes that were already clean, sat, stood, walked, sat again. The debt sat on the table like an open wound. He came home humming, keys jangling. The same comfortable rhythm of every other day. Marisol? He called, his tone warm, familiar, practiced. I held up the envelope. What is this? I asked. My voice sounded steady, quiet, controlled. His expression changed for less than a heartbeat, a flicker of calculation before he smiled. It is temporary, he said. A business investment went under. I am going to fix it. You do not need to worry. I took care of it. He walked to the stove, stirring the soup I had started before he left that morning. His movements were smooth, deliberate, the performance of a calm man handling a small inconvenience. You took out debt, I said. In my name. He did not look at me. It was simpler that way. Your credit is cleaner. I said I would handle the finances, and I did. We are a team. A team. A word used like a leash. What else is in my name, Adrian? He finally turned. That same soft smile. The one he used when he needed me to be quiet. You are overreacting, he said. Let me handle this. You always spiral. You make things harder than they are. There it was, the other leash. The one wrapped around the throat, not the wrist. The suggestion that my emotions were the problem. That questioning him made me irrational. I said nothing. We ate in silence. He talked about his day. I nodded without listening. And somewhere between carrot and broth I understood. He did not feel guilty. He did not feel caught. He felt inconvenienced. After he fell asleep, I sat in the living room, the debt notice in my lap. I stared at my forged signature. The shape of it. The familiarity of it. The theft of it. He had not slipped. He had planned. And if he had planned once, he had planned more. Dawn came as I moved through the house. Drawers. Cabinets. Desks. Filing boxes. I was not frantic. I was methodical. Every paper touched. Every envelope opened. Every file scanned. And then I found it. Tucked behind an old appliance manual. A folder. Heavy. Overfull. My name on the front. Written by his hand. Not mine. Inside. More accounts. More loans. More signatures. All mine. All forged. Not one mistake. Not one accident. Not one moment of panic. A system. A strategy. A betrayal built slowly, quietly, intentionally. Not to take my money. To use my future. I sat on the kitchen floor. Folder open in my lap. Morning sunlight rising across papers covered in my name written by someone else's hand. And I whispered, not broken, not afraid, simply realizing. I have been married to a man I never actually knew. I did not cry. I did not scream. I reached for my phone and dialed someone who had been waiting for this call. The person I called was not a friend or my sister, or anyone who would ask how I was feeling. I called someone who dealt in facts, not reassurance, my coworker Tessa. She was not close to me, But she understood numbers better than most people understand words. If there was something hidden, she would see it. She answered on the first ring, as if she had been expecting me. Marisol, she said. What happened? I told her I needed to show her something. I did not try to explain over the phone. Some truths lose power when spoken too early. She told me to come to her house, not the office. Bring everything, she said. Do not leave anything behind. I gathered the folder and drove across town. The roads empty and gray in the early light. My hands did not shake on the steering wheel. I felt strangely clear, like I had stepped outside of my life and was observing it with new eyes. Tessa opened the door before I knocked. She wore glasses, hair pulled back, coffee mug in hand. She did not hug me. She simply led me to her dining table and motioned for the papers. I spread them out, the forged signatures, the hidden accounts, the loan statements. She looked at each page without reacting, without questions. She moved in silence, sorting the documents into categories only she could see. Finally she spoke. He has been moving money for at least 3 years, she said. Maybe more. These signatures are careful, practiced. He watched you sign something at some point and learned to mimic your motion. She pointed to one form. See the slight hesitation at the loop of the M? That is not your stroke. That is copied muscle memory. I stared at the signature. She was right. The difference had been invisible to me, but now I could not unsee it. Tessa continued. This is not just debt. It is identity leverage. He did not only use your credit. He used your legal existence. Someone who does this is preparing to detach. Detach. Leave. Shed one life and step into another untouched. And you never noticed? She asked gently. I shook my head. He paid the bills. He said it was easier. I believed him. That's how this works, she said. Trust gives him access. Routine hides the access. Silence completes it. She picked up 2 documents and placed them side by side. These are loan consolidations. He used your name to secure larger lines, then transferred the funds into an account under his name only. Not equal. Not shared. So he left me with the debt, I said. Yes, she said. And he kept the cash. Something inside me went still. Not numb. Not shattered. Aligned. Because now I knew exactly what this was. This was not a marriage falling apart. This was a man who believed I would never look closely enough to see what he had done. Tessa leaned back. Do you want the emotional answer or the legal one? She asked. Legal, I said. She nodded, unsurprised. You need a forensic accountant and a family law attorney who specializes in financial abuse. Do not confront him again. Do not alert him. If he knows you know, he will move faster than you can trace. I thought about the calm way he had stirred soup the night before. He had not been worried. Because he believed the story he built around me, that I was soft, trusting, slow to question, eager to forgive. He believed I would accept the burden and thank him for the explanation. He believed I would stay small. Tessa slid a business card across the table. A name. A number. She will call you back within the hour. When she does, tell her everything exactly as it is. No softening. No protecting him. She met my eyes, not with sympathy but with recognition. You did not cause this, she said. But you will have to be the one to end it. I exhaled once. Deep. Grounded. Not afraid. I will. I gathered the documents back into the folder. The edges felt less sharp now. Not because the situation hurt less but because I finally knew the shape of it. On the drive home the sky had brightened. The world looked the same but I was not. When I pulled into the driveway, Adrian's car was gone. Work. Or so he would say. The house was quiet when I entered. I placed the folder in a locked drawer. Not hidden. Just claimed. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice. Steady. Professional. Marisol? This is Attorney Evelyn Shaw. I've been briefed. I need to ask one question before we proceed. I sat down. Go ahead. Do you want to leave him, she asked. Or do you want to win? The question did not take thought. I want my life back, I said. All of it. Evelyn's tone did not change, but something sharpened in it. Then we begin today. And she told me the first step. I had to let him believe I still trusted him. Evelyn's first instruction was the hardest to accept. Do not change your behavior. Do not confront him. Do not reveal what you know. Let him believe he still holds the narrative. I sat with that for a long moment after ending the call. Pretending was something I had already done for most of my marriage, but now it was different. I was not pretending to survive him. I was pretending to study him. I walked through the house slowly, the silence nearly heavy. I looked at the objects around me. Framed photos, dishes we picked together, the soft blanket I used on winter nights. They were pieces of a life I thought we had built together. Now I saw them differently. They were props. A stage set. A life stage to look real. When Adrian came home that evening, I made sure the house looked the same as always. Dinner simmering. The table set. The same quiet greeting. The same unremarkable routine. He believed in routine. Routine was how he hid things. He kissed my cheek. An automatic gesture. Nothing warm in it. Long day, he said, hanging up his jacket. Just want to eat and relax. His voice was calm, steady, practiced. I watched him move. The way he avoided eye contact when he lied. The way he filled silence before it could become a question. I knew those patterns now. At dinner he talked about his day. Work frustrations. An upcoming project. Mild complaints about coworkers. He spoke as if everything was normal, as if the forged signatures were just a small oversight. His expression was almost serene. I nodded. I asked questions. I let him believe he still owned my trust. Because if he believed that, he would not hide the next move. He would expose it. After dinner, he sat on the couch scrolling through his phone. I watched his reflection in the window glass. He was too relaxed. Too certain. He had not expected consequences. Not really. I excused myself and went into the bedroom. I shut the door gently, sat on the floor and called Evelyn back. He is calm, I said. That means he believes his plan is still intact, she replied. We need to know the full scale before we act. We need every account, every transfer, every signature request. You must continue gathering documents. But carefully. He cannot know. Where do I look? I asked. Start with the devices, she said. His laptop, his email, financial apps, password managers. There will be trails. I stared at the closed door. His laptop was in the living room. He was in the living room. The distance between us felt like the length of my entire past. You need to be patient, she warned. You cannot rush this. The moment he believes you know, he will move everything we need to prove. Patience. A word I had always thought meant waiting quietly. Now I understood it meant waiting with purpose. That night, after Adrian went to bed, I waited until his breathing settled into sleep. Then I slipped out of the room, careful with every step. The house was dim except for the faint glow of the street lamp outside. His laptop sat on the coffee table. I opened it. Password required. Of course. I tried the obvious ones. His birthday. No. Our anniversary. No. His mother's name. No. Then I remembered something Tessa had said. He watched you sign something at some point and learned to mimic your motion. He learned me. What had I learned of him? I typed the name of the river we used to walk along when we first dated. The one he only mentioned when speaking like someone who wanted to appear sentimental. The screen unlocked. I breathed once slow. The files were organized by year. Not labeled in ways that made sense to me but to him. Patterns. Streams of deposits. Transfers. Reallocations. Every action deliberate. Every shift small enough to appear harmless. He had not been reacting to life. He had been engineering a life. Just not one with me in it. I copied everything to an encrypted drive Evelyn had told me to prepare. Took time. Too much time. Every sound from the bedroom made my heart pause. But I kept going. One folder. Then another. Then the email archives. Then the cloud account synced from his phone. When it was done, I shut the laptop exactly as I had found it. In the bedroom he shifted in his sleep. I stood beside the bed for a moment watching him. He did not look like a villain. He did not look like someone who could dismantle a life piece by piece without remorse. He looked ordinary. Peaceful. But harm does not always come with raised voices. Sometimes it comes with a calm man stirring soup. The next morning I sent everything to Evelyn. Her reply came minutes later. We have enough to take everything back. But to make sure he cannot escape consequences, we need one more confirmation. What confirmation? I asked. Her answer was the moment the world tilted again. We need to catch him making the next move. And he will. Soon. So I waited. And he did. Waiting did not mean doing nothing. Waiting meant watching him closely, letting him act naturally, letting him believe I was still the quiet, trusting wife he had shaped me to be. Evelyn said he would make another move soon. Men like him do not stop once the plan is in motion. They accelerate. 3 days later I saw the shift. He came home earlier than usual, voice light, almost cheerful. Good news, he said, setting his briefcase down. A new opportunity came up. It will help us get back on track. He poured wine into 2 glasses, though he knew I rarely drank. Every gesture seemed casual. Too casual. He glanced toward his office door twice. That was my signal. I did not confront him. I did not ask questions. I let him talk. If I interrupted the story he was telling himself, he would only create more lies to protect it. That night, when he fell asleep, I slipped out of bed and walked to his office. The computer screen lit my face in the dark. I tried a password, the name of the river we used to walk beside when we dated. The one he only referenced when he wanted to seem sentimental. The screen unlocked. Inside were spreadsheets of transfers, withdrawals, accounts I had never heard of. And one new document, recently edited. A drafted transfer that would move funds out of the country, directly after another consolidation loan went through in my name. He wasn't waiting to fix anything. He was preparing to disappear everything. I took a single photo of the screen and backed away. Not touching anything else. Not leaving a trace. Not even breathing too loudly. In the morning, I sent the photo to Evelyn. Her response came immediately. Good. This proves ongoing manipulation. But do not act yet. I called her to understand. If we freeze his accounts now, he will panic, she explained. He will start moving assets through channels we cannot trace. We need him confident, predictable, sure of his control. She paused. That means you must continue behaving as if nothing happened. It felt like holding fire in my hands. But I understood. To win, he had to believe I was still inside the life he created. That evening I made dinner. I set the table. I greeted him softly when he walked through the door. The performance did not feel false, it felt strategic. He talked about his day. I nodded. He was relaxed again. Confident again. He believed I had accepted his explanation. He believed I was still his to manage. Later I sat with Evelyn's team. Halliday, the forensic accountant, traced the transfers. He has been shifting funds for years, he said. Small amounts. Routine. Invisible unless you look directly at the pattern. He was waiting for your debt to outweigh your assets. So I would feel I needed him, I said. Halliday nodded. Control disguised as responsibility. Reese, the specialist, added. Financial abusers do not need you broke. They need you dependent. Once dependence is achieved, resistance feels impossible. I heard the truth clearly. He did not just take money. He took freedom and planned to ration it back as permission. Evelyn leaned forward. You are not leaving quietly. We are reclaiming every cent. But to secure the financial reversal, we must capture the final transfer attempt in real time. Which meant, I had to encourage him, support him, trust him, visibly. So that night when he came home, I sat beside him on the couch. I placed my hand gently on his arm. I looked into his eyes like I once had, long before the lies. And in the softest voice I said, maybe we just need to start fresh. Together. Relief washed over his face. He believed me. He believed he still owned the story. He believed he still owned me. And because he believed that, he finally made his biggest mistake. Adrian believed me completely. I saw it in the way his shoulders loosened when I suggested starting fresh. He wanted to believe I was still the woman he had shaped, trusting, unquestioning, dependent. And because he needed that version of me to exist, he chose to see her. The next morning he made breakfast like he used to in our early years. Eggs, toast, a little too much pepper. He smiled as if he were giving me something meaningful. I feel like we're turning a corner, he said. I nodded gently. Me too. Inside, I was already 3 steps ahead. Evelyn had given me the script. Ask open questions. Show interest. Let him narrate his plan. The more he spoke, the more detailed the blueprint of his intentions became. Over dinner that evening, I asked casually, "Will the new project take much time to set up?" He paused just long enough for me to know he was considering how much to reveal. Then he said, "Just a few documents to finalize. I'll probably finish after work tomorrow." Documents. Transfers. The final move. I smiled softly. Good. I'm glad it's working out. He reached across the table and took my hand with a sincerity that might have once moved me. Now it just confirmed who he believed I still was. When he went to bed, I stepped outside onto the porch and called Evelyn. "He's finalizing the transfer tomorrow." She exhaled slowly. "Good. We're ready. We will freeze everything the moment he initiates." "What do I need to do?" I asked. "Stay close enough to know when he does it," she said. "But do not interfere. Do not push. Let him do exactly what he thinks he is doing." In other words, I had to watch him take the final step that would undo him. The next day, I told him I was thinking about reorganizing the living room. Something harmless, something domestic. He smiled at the idea. It reinforced his belief that I was nesting again, settling, reattaching myself to the life he wanted me contained inside. "I'll be in my office for a while," he said. "Just paperwork." "Of course," I replied, adjusting a pillow on the couch like I cared about the shape of the room. He closed the office door behind him. Not locked. Never locked. He didn't think he had to lock anything from me. I moved quietly, folding blankets, wiping down the table. The performance of someone who is comfortable, at ease, unaware. Inside the office, I heard the soft clicking of keys. Then a pause. Then more typing. He was reviewing accounts, confirming balances, moving numbers that didn't belong to him. I stood in the hallway, the same distance away as always, but now every sound was meaning. 2 more keystrokes. A long exhale of satisfaction. He was doing it. Transferring the last of the funds, the part he believed would secure his exit, leave me carrying the debt he created. I picked up my phone and sent the single message Evelyn told me to send. Now, less than 1 minute later, I heard it. A sharp tone from his computer. Not dramatic, just a system alert. A freeze notification. Transaction blocked. Adrian froze. I could feel his stillness even through the closed door. Then a harsh whisper. "No. No, no, no." Papers rustled. He clicked again. More urgently. Faster. And faster. Then again and again and again. Every account. Every transfer path. Locked. Evelyn and her team had hit him all at once. I stood perfectly still in the hallway, breathing slowly. Then he spoke, not loud, not shouted, but in a voice stripped clean of charm. "Marisol." Just my name. But said like a warning. Like recognition. Like he finally understood the truth. His control was not slipping. It was gone. He opened the office door. His expression was not rage. It was something much more dangerous. Realization. "You knew," he said. I did not step back. I did not lower my gaze. "Yes," I said. "I knew." Silence stretched, thick, electric, undeniable. That was the moment the power dynamic reversed. Not with shouting, not with courtroom declarations, but with quiet truth spoken without fear. He took a slow step toward me. And then, his phone rang. He looked down. Caller ID. Attorney General's office. His hand shook when he answered. And I stood there watching as the world he built began to collapse. But the most important part hadn't happened yet. He answered the call with a voice that tried to be steady. It wasn't. I could hear the tremor hidden under each word. "Yes, speaking," he said, pacing the office doorway. His hand gripped the phone too tightly. His eyes darted between me, the floor, the window, as if any direction offered safety. I didn't move. I stood in the hall, calm, hands loosely folded. I wanted him to look at me and see what he never thought I could be. Stillness that could not be manipulated. "Yes, I understand," he said into the phone. His voice thinned. His throat tightened. He swallowed hard. There must be a mistake, he added, but the request sounded fragile, almost childlike. I can provide documentation. His shoulders dropped. Not dramatically, just enough to show he knew he had no documentation that would save him. I will contact my attorney, he whispered. He hung up. Silence, heavy like something falling through water. Finally he spoke. You froze my accounts. It wasn't a question. Yes, I said. You went behind my back. You went behind mine first. He flinched. Not physically. Internally. The kind of flinch that comes from truth landing too close. No, he said quietly. I did what I had to. You were always so overwhelmed. I protected us. I handled everything because you couldn't. Once those words would have cut deep. Perhaps I would have cried. Explained myself. Begged to be understood. Now the words simply confirmed what I already knew. He needed me small to feel large. You didn't protect us, I said. You built a life where I would never be able to leave you. His face twisted. Anger and disbelief tangled together. I wanted us to stay together, he said, as though that made it noble. I needed to know you wouldn't walk away the moment things got hard. Hard. I repeated. You forged my signature. You stole my future. You planned your escape and left me to drown. He stepped forward, voice low. I love you. The words felt empty, thin, reheated from use. Not love. Possession disguised as devotion. I shook my head. You love control. For the first time since I had known him, there was no expression on his face. No charm. No regret. Nothing to sell. Just the man stripped bare. And in that stripped silence I understood something. He had expected to be caught eventually. He had simply expected to be forgiven. He reached for me, not with affection but reflex. The reflex of someone who has always been allowed to take. I stepped back. His hand closed on air. Now he understood. The cage had opened, and I was not inside. He exhaled once. Long, slow. Calculated. We don't have to let this become ugly, he said. We can fix this before anyone else gets involved. They're already involved, I said. The transfers were flagged. The accounts are frozen. You will need to disclose everything. And we will divide everything legally. His eyes narrowed, not rage, not panic, strategy recalculating. You think you win if I lose? He asked. No, I said. I win because I'm finally free. Quiet war is louder than shouting. He walked past me, opened the front door and stepped outside. He didn't slam the door. He didn't shout. He didn't beg. He walked away because he needed time to rebuild whatever narrative made him the hero again. He would try to come back with a story with excuses polished smooth. He would not give up. But I was no longer his audience. The house was silent when he left. Clean. Still. My breathing steady. I sat at the table and stared at the papers one more time. The signatures, the numbers, the life he stole piece by piece. There was no grief left. Just clarity. My phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. Good. Step 1 complete. Step 2 begins tomorrow. Be prepared. He will try to return. I typed back. Let him. Because what Adrian didn't know yet was that I hadn't just frozen his accounts. I had already opened the path to take everything back. The next morning felt unnaturally quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before a storm, not after one. Adrian hadn't come home during the night. I didn't wonder where he was. I knew. Men like him never step into silence when confronted. They go looking for an audience that will echo back the story they need to believe. Evelyn arrived just after sunrise. She didn't knock. She waited, letting me choose when to open the door. She valued agency in a way I had forgotten to value in myself. I stepped aside to let her in. She placed her briefcase on the table where I had first opened the envelope that changed everything. We moved today, she said. Before he regroups. She explained the sequence. We were filing fraud, financial coercion, and spousal asset concealment simultaneously with the divorce petition. By doing so, the court would treat the financial actions not as marital disputes, but as premeditated manipulation. That changed everything. It shifted the burden. Gave me power. But first she needed one more thing, my statement. Not emotional. Not narrative. Factual. beginning to end, dates, behaviors, accounts, moments that felt small at the time but now formed a pattern. I spoke, calm, clear, no shaking. As I talked, I watched her write. No pause, no surprise. She had seen this before. Not my story but the shape of it. The architecture of quiet harm. When I finished, she closed her notebook gently. Good, she said. Your clarity makes this easier. You are not here to prove pain. You are here to prove intent. That sentence settled into my bones. We drove downtown to the courthouse. I had walked past that building countless times, never imagining I would step inside for something that felt like reclaiming the outline of my own life. The building wasn't grand. It was ordinary, but I felt taller walking toward it. Inside, everything happened quickly. Papers filed, stamps pressed, copies made. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just administrative, which almost made it more powerful. My life was not changing because of some emotional confrontation. It was changing because I finally named what had been happening all along. When we walked back outside, the sun had risen higher. I exhaled slowly, the kind of breath that felt like I had been holding it for years. Evelyn turned to me. He will call you when he receives the notice. Do not answer. Silence is your leverage now. We drove back to my house. Her car pulled away. I stood alone in the driveway. Not afraid. Steady. I entered the house and everything was still exactly where I had left it. The blanket folded, dishes drying, the scent of coffee lingering in the air. For the first time, the house felt like it belonged to me. Hours passed. Quiet ones. Then the doorknob turned. Adrian stepped inside. He didn't slam the door. He didn't accuse. He didn't shout. He simply stood there, rain on his jacket, hair damp, jaw tight. You filed, he said. Yes, I replied. You froze everything. Yes. He nodded once. Slow. So this is what you want. This is what you created, I said. He let out a hollow laugh. You think you're strong now. I am strong now, I said. Not loud. Certain. He stepped closer, too close, searching my face for a crack. A doubt. A plea. Something to grab hold of. But there was nothing left for him to hold. His voice dropped. You ruined me. No, I said. I stopped you. He stared at me for a long moment. And that was when I saw it, the flaw in his strategy, the one Evelyn knew would come. He had never prepared for a version of me who would not be afraid. He stepped back. His expression hardened into something sharp, cold, calculating. This isn't over, he said. No, I agreed. It isn't. He left. This time I did not watch him go. I closed the door. I locked it. I walked back to the dining table and sat down. My phone buzzed. A message from Tessa. Call me. There is something you need to see. Now, I didn't know yet, but the debt wasn't the only thing Adrian had left in my name. Tessa's voice was already tense when I called. Come to my office, she said. Right now. No explanation. No hesitation. I grabbed my keys and drove. The world looked normal outside, morning traffic, a jogger, a woman walking her dog, but I felt the shift underneath all of it. Betrayal never happens in one moment. It spreads in layers. And I had just reached the next one. Tessa was waiting at the front entrance, arms crossed, expression severe. Not angry, focused. She led me to her office and closed the door before speaking. Adrian didn't just forge loans, she said. He changed beneficiaries. My pulse slowed heavy. What do you mean? She pulled up a screen. A life insurance policy. My policy. One I had opened years ago before the marriage. Untouched, steady, meant to protect whoever I loved. The beneficiary was no longer Adrian. It was someone I had never heard of. A woman's name. I stared at it, the letters sharp and unfamiliar. Who is she? Tessa glanced at me carefully. Someone he's been seeing for longer than you think. Not just an affair. A future. A relocation. A replacement. Adrian had not been planning an exit. He had already built one. My breath did not break. It condensed into clarity sharper than any emotion I had felt before. Tessa continued. And there's more. He didn't just plan to leave you with debt. He planned to leave you disposable. The room did not spin. It narrowed. Focus sharpened until there was nothing but the truth sitting in front of me. My name. Her name. His fingerprints everywhere. He hadn't wanted me dependent. He had wanted me irrelevant. I spoke slowly. How long? Tessa exhaled. Based on email timestamps and transfer trails, at least 2 years. Maybe longer. 2 years. Of smiling across dinner tables. Of hugging me goodnight. Of watching me sleep while planning a life without me. I closed my eyes, but not to escape, to steady. I need a name, I said. Tessa gave it to me. Eva March. No face attached. Not yet. Just a name. But names are doors. And once a door is opened, it cannot be closed. I left the office and drove home. I didn't feel the steering wheel. I didn't hear the traffic. My mind was a straight corridor leading to a conclusion that had already formed. When I walked into the house, it was quiet. Too quiet. A glass sat on the counter. A jacket draped over a chair. His jacket. Adrian was home. He stepped out from the hallway as if he had been waiting for me. His expression wasn't anger now. It was something far more familiar. Control being reassembled. I think we should talk, he said. I looked at him, really looked. The man I had loved, trusted, defended. The man who had written a version of me that was small enough to contain. No, I said softly. You should listen. His jaw tightened. Marisol. I raised a hand. He stopped. The smallest shift of power, but undeniable. You lied about debt. You lied about accounts. You lied about your plans. But there is one thing you never considered. His eyes flickered. Calculating. You believed I wouldn't see you, I said. But I see you now. Entirely. He opened his mouth, ready to shape another narrative. And I cut him off. Who is Eva? It was the first time I had ever seen his composure break completely. Not a flicker. Not a hesitation. A collapse. A silence that revealed everything. There was no confusion in his eyes. No denial. No attempt to pretend he didn't know the name. He knew exactly who she was. He just didn't know I did. He stepped back just slightly. And that was all I needed. Because fear always reveals the truth faster than confession. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from Evelyn. Be ready. We initiate asset seizure tomorrow morning. I didn't look away from him as I read it. Adrian exhaled through his teeth, grip tightening at his sides. This isn't what you think, he said. But I was already done listening to explanations shaped to protect him. Because tomorrow, Adrian would learn something he had never believed possible. I was no longer the woman he could afford to underestimate. Morning came with a quiet I did not trust. I woke before the alarm, before the sun had fully reached the windows. The world felt suspended, like something was about to break, but had not yet chosen when. I showered. I dressed. I tied my hair back with steady hands. Today was the day Evelyn had prepared for. Asset seizure. Not a threat. Not a warning. A legal action. A correction. When I walked into the kitchen, Adrian was already there. He stood by the counter with a mug of coffee he was not drinking. His jaw was set. His posture rigid. His eyes did not track my movements, they watched my reaction. He wanted to see fear. He wanted proof he still held something inside me. You really think this is going to work? He said. I poured myself water. It already has. He let out a short laugh, sharp and humorless. You have no idea how the world works, Marisol. You cannot just flip a switch and take my life. I looked at him. Calm. Steady. You took mine. That silenced him, not because he agreed, but because he heard certainty that did not require his approval. The doorbell rang. Adrian stiffened. I did not. I walked to the door and opened it to 2 uniformed officers and a representative from the county clerk's office. They greeted me politely, not with pity, not with sympathy, but with professionalism. Process. Law. Reality. Mrs. Hale, we are here to serve and execute the court order. Adrian stepped forward. This is ridiculous. I have attorneys. I have representation. You cannot seize. The officer raised a hand, not aggressive, just clear. You may contact your attorney. The order stands. The representative handed him a packet. Pages thick. Stamped. Signed. Official. The words were unmistakable. Immediate freeze. Immediate disclosure. Immediate inventory of property. Joint assets to be secured under neutral control. Not his control. Not even mine. The courts. Adrian flipped through the pages, growing paler with each one. He had expected hesitation. Negotiation. A plea to reconsider. A tear. Something emotional to push against. But I gave him nothing. You blindsided me, he muttered. I shook my head. You underestimated me. The officers moved through the house. Not invasive, just methodical. Documenting items. Cataloging valuables. Ensuring nothing left the premises. Adrian paced. He raked a hand through his hair. He muttered to himself. The performance was unraveling. Finally, he stopped moving and looked at me. Not with anger now, but confusion. The confusion of a man who has lived his entire life believing control was something he was entitled to. Why are you doing this? He asked. For a moment I saw the man I had once loved. Or rather, the version of him I had constructed. The one I had believed in. The one I had wanted to be real. But that version had never existed. I am doing this, I said softly, because you never believed I could. His expression cracked. Just slightly. Enough to show the truth. He hadn't prepared for this moment. Not because he thought I wouldn't reach it, but because he believed I did not deserve to reach it. The officers finished and left. The house settled back into stillness. Adrian sat down heavily, hands clasped, staring at the floor. For the first time he looked small. I felt no triumph. Just clarity. This was not revenge. This was restoration. A return of what had been taken slowly enough I almost forgot it was mine. My phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. Court hearing scheduled. We present evidence the day after tomorrow. I typed back. I'll be there. I walked past Adrian. I didn't touch him. Didn't speak. Didn't look back. Because turning back is how cages close again. I stepped outside. The air was cold, but it felt like air made for breathing. And then my phone buzzed again. A name on the screen I had never seen before. Eva. She was calling me. And I answered. Her voice was quiet when she spoke. Softer than I expected. Not the voice of a villain. The voice of someone who did not yet realize the role she had been given in a story she did not write. Marisol, she asked. Yes, I said. A breath on the other end. Not hesitation. Recognition. I think we need to talk, she said. I agree. We met at a small cafe on the edge of town. Neutral ground. Public. Safe. I arrived first. She arrived moments later, hair pulled back, coat wrapped tight, eyes red-rimmed from a night without sleep. She did not look like someone who had won anything. She sat across from me. No small talk. No performance. Just truth standing there with trembling hands. I didn't know, she said. Not at first. Not until recently. I said nothing. I wanted her to speak without shaping her words around my reactions. He told me your marriage was over, she said. He told me you were unstable. That you didn't work. That you were draining him. That he was trapped. The words were familiar, not because they were true, but because he had once told me the same things about himself when he needed to reframe guilt as martyrdom. How long? I asked. She didn't try to soften it. 3 years. 3 years of dinners. 3 years of shared routines. 3 years of secrets he had carried while kissing me goodnight. I did not flinch. She looked at me carefully. He said you didn't appreciate him. That you didn't support him. I laughed softly, not cruelly. Just tired. That's the story he tells when he wants a woman to feel lucky to have him, I said. She looked down. Shame flickered behind her eyes. But shame means awareness, and awareness means change. He told me we would move away together, she said. Start over. Clean slate. He said the debt was a burden you created and he was trying to save himself. Of course. The same narrative. Recycled. Just repackaged. He told me, she whispered, voice breaking, that I was the reason he became strong. There it was. Men like him do not seek partners. They seek mirrors. I believed him, she said. I thought I was helping him escape something toxic. And now? I asked. She reached into her bag, pulled out a folder, nearly identical to the one I found in my own home. Statements. Transfers. Promises. Plans. Except this time the accounts were hers. He was doing the same thing to me, she said. He opened credit cards in my name. I didn't notice until the statements arrived yesterday. Her voice cracked. He was never planning to leave with me. He was planning to leave through me. Silence settled between us, not hollow but filled with mutual recognition. She had not been my rival. She had been my replacement victim. I leaned forward steady. You can help yourself, I said. Or you can let this destroy you. Those are the only two outcomes. She nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? I did not smile. This was not victory. This was alignment. Testify. Her eyes widened. Against him. Yes. She looked down at her hands, then back up. There was no fear now. Only resolve. I will. We stood, leaving our cups untouched. Outside the wind was colder, sharper, realer than anything that had come before. Before we parted, she asked softly, "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. No. I hate the version of myself who would have stayed. Not you. Her eyes filled but no tears fell. She nodded and walked away. I watched her go, not as a rival, not as an enemy, but as someone who finally saw the fire they had been standing inside. When I arrived home, Evelyn texted. Hearing confirmed. Tomorrow. Bring everything. I looked around my house, the house that had once felt like a shared life. Now it felt like a battlefield already won, waiting only for the final declaration. I exhaled, slow and steady. Not grief. Not relief. Readiness. Tomorrow, I would walk into court not as the woman he tried to break, but as the woman who rebuilt herself from everything he underestimated.